All right, welcome back to Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Vinny.
I'm Dylan.
And it was an interesting one. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. We saw Alibaba had a couple bad days this week, and one of them was interesting. I actually had Thursday off, and I was watching CNBC, and I saw this guy on there, and I'm like sitting there going, like, what the hell? As he talks about how he thinks China is going to invade Taiwan, and that investing in China is a tragic mistake. And so I wanted to play this video clip and then talk a little bit about like the dynamics there and the backstory between China and Taiwan.
One comment moved the whole market. If you like this entire entertaining stock market content, we are just two stupid guys trying to figure everything out. Give us a like and subscribe.
With that, get to it.
Two stupid guys trade stocks.
All right. First, I'm going to actually let this video clip play. This is he's the CIO of Hayman Capital, and he's talking about China and kind of some of the other news stories this week about George Soros taking an anti-China, investing strategy position, and Ray Dalio taking a pro-China, kind of investing position. A little bit about the backstory there. He's going to talk about this.
Before you play this, when the stock opened on this day, it opened at like 174. It was a big gap up. Yeah. And then it closed all the way down below 170 at 169 and change because of this dude.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't probably just him, but he was certainly part of it.
It was just him.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
An op-ed from billionaire investor George Soros earlier this week, where he called it a tragic mistake to pour billions of dollars into China right now. Soros making those comments on the heels of BlackRock, launching its mutual fund in the country last month. BlackRock chairman and CEO Larry Fink wrote the Chinese market, quote, represents a significant opportunity in a letter to shareholders earlier this year. Let's bring in Hayman Capital Management.
That comment didn't go hard enough, huh?
Apparently not.
Yeah, so there's the one guy quoting war, and the other one's like, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity. Let's just focus on the war one. Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah, exactly.
Great.
Who joins us in a closing bell exclusive. Carl, good to see you as always. Where are you on this debate today versus your view towards the level of opportunity versus risk in China over the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's important. Well, first of all, good to be here. It's important to note that if you look back at the Shanghai Index over the last 10 years, it is compounded annually at only 3.4%, while the S&P is compounded annually at 14% over the last 10 years. And you have BlackRock's chief investment strategist, Wei Li, a Chinese national, telling us that we should triple our investment allocations to China because it's no longer an emerging economy, it's a developed economy. And she says that we're being compensated for the extra risks. Number one, they don't submit themselves to audits like the West does.
What do you think about that comment?
That is fair. I know that you're going to disagree with me, but remember there was that new legislator that passed where to be on the American, New York Stock Exchange, and for Americans to be able to trade shares, that you had to follow certain guidelines required for accounting and auditing, which China does not allow. And I believe we're in the first year of default, and after 3 years, I think they actually moved it to 2, you get screwed.
Yeah. So yes, I agree that they don't follow to the American standard where it requires oversight by that separate accounting oversight board. However, they have been audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers for over 20 years, one of like the big international auditing agencies in the world. So to say they're not audited at all is unrealistic. It's just not to American standard.
But to be fair, granted, I have money in Baba. PricewaterhouseCoopers is not regulated by Congress.
No, I know. It's a private company.
So.
Yeah, look up Arthur Andersen and their role in Enron.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
Any company you invest in China, you're just hoping they're telling you the truth about the numbers. There's no verification of that truth. And now we have Xi Jinping risk. And Wilfred, I don't know about your models, but how would you discount Xi Jinping risk coming in and laying waste to an entire sector of for-profit education, or deciding just to take half the profits of whichever companies he wants to take the profits for the common prosperity and the Maoism of what Xi Jinping's talking about? I think what Ray Dalio's saying and what BlackRock's saying is crazy. I agree with George Soros 100% on this issue.
So, what have you removed all exposure you have to China, or are there other ways you can do it? You can get exposure to these sorts of themes without the risk.
Due to criticism, I eliminated all of my China exposure years ago. So right now, I'm just coming.
So did you catch that?
He said he eliminated it years ago.
Yeah, but he said due to criticism, like as in it was not necessarily his own idea. He basically was saying that it was outside forces that caused him to do this. So
Okay, yeah, I didn't catch that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, like that was an interesting point for him to make. I thought, if you Google him, you'll find a lot of like Chinese investment things, even though he's like not invested. Which whatever. I mean, it's fine. We can all have our opinions. I just think that was kind of an interesting way to phrase that.
To you as a concerned citizen and a proud fiduciary. And, I don't think you can be a fiduciary and say that you're being compensated for the extra risks of China with their rule by law, no rule of law, no audits, and Xi Jinping risk. And the returns in China are horrible compared to the returns in the United States. So I think it's important, Will, for the next time you get Ray Dalio on, I've never heard anyone in the media ask him, how much money does the Chinese government have invested in Ray's fund? I hear they're one of his largest investors with multiple billions of investment for the last decade. The Chinese state apparatus is one of Ray's largest investors. Why don't you ask him how much the Chinese government has invested in his funds?
I mean, that was actually a very fair point. I mean, I definitely agree. And that's something that Dylan and I aspire to here is trying to have the best transparency we can in terms of having a financial media outlet of any sorts whatsoever. But yeah, it is true. Maybe Ray Dalio has a position here that he's, not really per se financially free to give his honest opinion.
Right. So Ray Dalio is essentially like 80% of financial YouTubers.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the whole kind of backstory of Taiwan and because in this news clip, I actually was able to watch this live. They didn't upload this portion, but this gentleman goes on to say that he thinks in the next 1 to 2 years that China may make a move on Taiwan, which would be pretty crazy, like World War III-ish, maybe.
And then the stock drops. Great.
Yeah, I know, right? So this is basically what he called for, was that Xi Jinping would be invading Taiwan. What effect that basically had on the whole Chinese sector here. So yeah, this Taiwan island located off the coast of China here. It really interesting backstory about how it went back and forth. It was originally kind of settled by with farmers from southeastern China, and then also some fishermen moved in there. There was a Dutch colony for a period of time. There was even a Spanish outpost there back in the kind of colonial days. And then was ruled by this Qing dynasty, basically. From 1683 to 1895. 1895, it's actually ceded to the Japanese. The Japanese attempt to control it for the next 50 years almost, and it's a struggle. They do some really questionable stuff, including taking 2,000, I think it was Taiwanese women, and basically using them as prostitutes during World War II. Really crazy. Yeah, I know, right? They had over 300,000 native Japanese that they had basically moved to Taiwan in order to try to commingle and bring the island more into the Japanese fold. So after 1945, when Japanese surrender, basically the island of Taiwan falls under the Republic of China, which was already a pre-existing group. There was a Chinese Civil War that was taking place during and prior to World War II. And that Republic of China was the side that basically was given Taiwan by the U.S. Actually, specifically, we went over and took Republic of China troops and sailed them over to Taiwan. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, we did, and allow the Japanese to surrender to the Republic of China troops. So, the Republic of China, was basically one of the two parties involved in the Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Communist Party under Mao Zedong wins out and takes control of mainland China. However, Taiwan, which was, the kind of last vestige of the Republic of China, this losing side, imagine if, the American Civil War, as if, I don't know, South Carolina just, somehow maintained its independence and was almost granted sovereignty.
So for someone who knows absolutely nothing about this, probably most people watching, are you saying that China, there's like kind of like Ireland, like where you have two and they're fighting, and then the loser essentially that lost mainland China is Taiwan.
Yes, that's the Republic of China.
I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Taiwan has a really unique position in that most countries in the world do not recognize them as an independent country. Yeah, did you know that? Yeah,
No.
including the United States, we do not recognize Taiwan as an independent country.
But what are they then?
Yeah, we fall in this one China rule, and we basically treat them all as if they were a country, which is kind of weird. Yeah, the politics here are definitely very interesting, and like I was only scratching the surface of this, reading through dozens of news articles, basically. Okay, so Taiwan actually, up until 1987, basically was a military dictatorship, and then they've slowly evolved, creating more and more democratic government systems, and finally in 2020 they've finally been recognized as a full democracy. Which is interesting. The United States is actually not considered a full democracy by the same organization. We're a flawed democracy, so they're more democratic than we are, according to this independent organization.
We're a flawed democracy?
Yep. Yeah. So what I'm gonna say, yeah, we rank below quite a few countries. We're like number 21, maybe somewhere around there, in terms of our freedoms.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty interesting.
All right.
So 13,000 square miles for the island, Taiwan. GDP $759 billion. This is actually nominal GDP. This is nominal GDP per capita, meaning the actual number of dollars, 32,000. But when you actually look at it in terms of cost of living and look at where they rank in the world, number 13. So a pretty wealthy country on a per person basis when you adjust the cost of living. Yeah, they call it one of the four Asian tigers, alongside Hong Kong, South Korea, and Singapore, in terms of the growth. Now, it's been an interesting relationship. Like I said, we do not officially recognize them as an independent country. However, we've been selling them arms since like the 1970s. Yeah. So this is one of the early ones. I think this was, I can't remember which president. It might have actually been George H.W. Bush. Yeah, that time period, 1992. We sold them 150 F-16s of these bad boys right here.
Why?
So, they still are very, very small in terms of military capacity compared to mainland China, but they do have a fair complement, if you will, of weaponry. I want to say if Taiwan were considered an independent country, they ranked, I think it was number 23 or something like that in terms of strength. Once again, these are all kind of arbitrary things, but
right.
Yeah, long tradition here of being sold weapons by the United States. Obama sold them 60 Black Hawk helicopters here.
Oh, and that was recent. That was 2010.
Yeah, even Biden's actually participated in the sale already.
Yes.
Trump sold them over 100 of these M1A2 Abrams tanks, which is like the main battle tank of the U.S. Army at this point in time.
That is awesome looking thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should see that it can actually track and target while moving. So it doesn't have to stop to fire at a target and be precise. It can do it while moving. This is Biden. Since Biden took office, he actually sold them. I forget exactly how many of these things. This is a howitzer. That's a mobile gun platform.
I love how it says Big Bertha. What a badass thing to put on there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's pretty Big Bertha-ish. Yeah, so this was another thing that kind of came up recently about this whole like U.S.-China relationship, how I talked about whether or not the U.S. would necessarily defend Taiwan if they were to be invaded by mainland China. And Biden had to kind of walk back some statements he had made to that effect because, like I said, the U.S. still at this point does not officially recognize Taiwan as an independent country. We have had, I want to say it was Biden did actually speak directly with the president of Taiwan. I cannot recall her name at this point in time, but that was an unusual move in that was one of the first times that the Taiwanese leader had been able to speak to the U.S. president directly. But it's a contentious area. So I mean, it's interesting to say the least. But in terms of a business pragmatic standpoint, I'm never one to believe that people are going to go and do something really crazy, like going, invading a territory. As far as the Chinese consider it as if they're still like remnants of their, opponents from the Civil War, and they're still part of their country. But geopolitically, I think the rest of the world would look at an aggressive move from the mainland China on Taiwan as a major, I want to say, offensive military movement. So it would not be greeted very kindly. It's definitely interesting, but there's news articles talking about how back as far as 2010, where people were calling for this. I think this is a little bit of a Chicken Little situation where, it certainly poses risk, and the parties have certainly acted hostily towards each other in the past and things like that. But I still don't see this kind of situation of devolving into full open war in the next couple of years, like this gentleman actually stated.
And if it does, Baba's gonna. I mean, I don't know why that makes Baba go down, but apparently it does.
Yeah, if it does, you buy Intel. Because Taiwan Semiconductor might be in trouble.
Oh, that's true. Actually, that would be okay. I didn't really think about that. Yeah.
Why do you think they're building a new fab in Arizona?
Yeah, fair enough. Might have to be an Intel guy now.
I know, right? All right, guys. So let us know what you think. This is just an interesting news segment. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Have a good one, guys.